Hello everyone, it's Angelina. Welcome to my channel if you're new here, and if you're a returning subscriber, you know that I have not uploaded in a very long time, and this video will kind of go in depth into what I've been doing in the past 2 years basically. So just a quick update, I graduated college about 3 weeks ago. I don't know when this is gonna upload. So this video is basically going to be about my undergraduate experience and all that I did to get into PA school. I will be attending a PA school in Texas starting August. So just off the bat, I will have timestamps for this video. I don't even know where to begin with this, but it is probably gonna be a lengthy video. So if you don't wanna hear me blabber along and you just wanna find out about specific things, feel free to look in the description box. I just wanted to kind of make this video transitioning into this next part of my life, since YouTube has always followed along with like my middle school, my high school, and my college experience. So now I want to continue that following into graduate school. And before we start the video, just make sure you click subscribe. I don't know where the button is anymore. And follow me on Instagram at Medically Angie. I post a lot of pre-PA stuff on there. I just loved following pre-PA accounts or PA accounts at the time, and then I watched so many of these YouTube videos, so I'm finally at the point where I can make my own videos. So let's just dive in. It's really important to remember that stats are not everything and they do not define you, which is easier said than done, considering your application revolves around all of those hours and you're working really hard to get into them. You really need to remember that you're on your own specific path in life. But with that being said, my stats are on the lower end, I think, compared to what I've definitely seen online through forums and Facebook groups and all of that stuff. So my stats might help you feel better, and if that is the case, then I'm glad. I applied in the cycle of 21 to 22. I was towards the end of my junior year when I applied, so those were the stats I had at the time. I did continue working after I submitted my applications, just in preparation of the next cycle in case that I needed it, which I thought was really likely at the time. So my GPA was 3.69. That was my overall GPA. I also did some prereqs at community colleges, so in case you were wondering, yes, a lot of PA schools do accept those credits. For my science GPA, I had 3.63. So I think my GPA was on the average end. It definitely wasn't high or anything. It was a lot lower, and then I had to pull my weight. I did pretty bad my freshman and sophomore year, and then from that point on, I kind of did like a really high upward trend, and I started getting a lot better grades. So for my patient care hours, I had about 540 hours, and that was through one experience. I was basically a student worker nursing assistant at my university's health center, which is called Butyl. It was a really great opportunity at the time. They basically gave us all the training that we needed. It was like a summer where, I don't know how many of us, maybe 15, maybe more or less, but we basically stayed the whole summer, and they trained us in terms of like vitals, removing sutures, putting on like casts, I don't know, little things like that, ear lavages, EKGs. So I really got just a general education on basic medical assistant stuff without certification. I worked as a student worker nursing assistant for about a year. So 540 hours was about the length of a year for me, in addition to taking my full-time student course loads. So I think my work weeks ranged about like 12 to 20 depending on my semester. I know plenty of people who were able to work way more. For me, that was kind of like my first major job in college besides like little things. So I think that's why I just devoted 12 to 20 hours. And after I got a year of experience there, I actually found another job as a medical assistant at an electrophysiology office, and that was the best job that I think I've had. I've learned so much there, and I'm so grateful to have had an opportunity without certifications. So just to add on that, the only patient care hours I had on my application at the time was that student health center at my school. And the reason why I think that patient care hours was deemed so valuable on my application despite having low hours is because it allowed me to work in a really wide range of specialties. For my healthcare hours, I was definitely on the lower end. I only had 115. What I counted as healthcare hours, I got asked the other day what I could count as that. I counted basically my training for the student worker nursing assistant position. And then I also counted just little events from a pre-PA org that I was in. So anything healthcare related that wasn't hands-on with patients, that's what I counted as healthcare hours. For leadership, I think this was one of my strengths in my application. I had 615 hours. I gained that through being an officer and a small group leader in our pre-PA organization on campus. And if y'all go to A&M, I would highly recommend joining Future Aggie Physician Assistants. That's on campus, and basically we have bi-weekly meetings, and there will be a PA speaker that comes in, or even people from different schools and facilities within Texas to come speak at our meetings. My other leadership thing was completely unrelated to healthcare. I was a campus representative for VS Pink. It's kind of another paid job that I had that was unrelated, but I think it shows that I had like other passions and hobbies outside of healthcare. For my extracurricular, I had 276. This was basically any of the other organizations I was in. So I was in like a multicultural sorority thing, I counted those, and just some little other organizations that I was in. For shadowing, I only had 90 hours and only 40 of them were in person. So the rest were virtual shadowing, and I'm not sure if schools still accept that at the moment, but if they are, DM me on Medically Angie on Instagram and I can definitely redirect you for virtual shadowing. For my in-person shadowing, I really recommend you shadow. I'm pretty sure most schools do require it, but shadowing a PA honestly allows you to really solidify your decision for wanting to pursue that career, seeing the daily roles and how it is really on the job. So I would highly recommend that. And I honestly wish I was able to shadow more. For volunteering, I had 164 hours. So that consisted of like the food bank. I did a virtual crisis text counseling that was online through Crisis Text Line. I think that's still a thing. If y'all are interested, I highly recommend it. I actually really enjoyed volunteering through them. For my research, I was a part of a research team for about 1 to 2 semesters, but that was revolving around stemming from stereotypes. So I focused on Asian women and race and gender biases in STEM. So that kind of consisted of like being able to interview students and gathering all the research. So that was just another really cool opportunity. You definitely don't have to do research for PA school, but that was just something else that I wanted to do at the time. So those are my basic stats, just to get those out of the way, and then I'm gonna go into kind of my journey and how I accrued all those hours throughout the years and what I did personally. I know my freshman, sophomore year, I was completely overwhelmed by the idea of being a good applicant for PA school. I didn't know where to start, and honestly, it was so overwhelming. But hopefully being able to walk it through with y'all and just be able to talk about it can help a little bit here. So for my freshman year, I actually didn't do anything like pre-PA related at all. I was pretty lost at the time. I didn't know what I wanted completely. So I took that time to kind of find my own hobbies and really establish myself at college, being a first generation student. I think it wasn't until my second semester of freshman year or even first semester of sophomore year that I joined our pre-PA organization on campus. So to all my undergrads, I definitely recommend joining a pre-PA organization. They would always provide resources for every aspect of your application, where to start. I went in knowing nothing and I came out being like obsessed. So towards the end of my sophomore year, it kind of started hitting me that I did need to start doing things to make myself a valuable applicant if I wanted to apply eventually. That was kind of unfortunate on my end because at the end of my sophomore year before junior year, I think that's when COVID started reeling in. So it was really bad that I left everything till my junior year. To those watching this, if you have your grades under control and you know that you can handle more, the first thing that you could do would be to get a patient care job. And the second thing is, if you don't want to work at the time or you're not ready for it, go ahead and just shadow or volunteer. My junior year, this is the year where I basically got all of my hours on my application. The summer before junior year, that's when I did my training for the student worker nursing assistant position, which I actually got through the pre-PA org. That's where I found out about it. So while I was working my patient care jobs, this is also when I started to do stuff for shadowing. So I cold called every provider that I could find. I basically searched like PAs in my area, which was College Station, and I looked up like all the facilities and directories and started reaching out to as many as I could. And the town that I live in is obviously very college populated, so it's extremely hard to find providers that are willing to take on more than like 1 to 2 students. But I kept trying, and I eventually got a PA that was a first assist for orthopedic surgeries that allowed me to shadow, and I took advantage of that. I shadowed every single week for as long as I could. I did that on top of working and taking a whole course load. So it was really stressful for me at the time, but in hindsight, like, I am so glad that I did it. I look back and I'm so grateful that I really pushed myself to do all of those things. And it's not for everybody, obviously. Like, mental health comes first. So just kind of really evaluate yourself. You know yourself best and what you can handle. Because honestly, gap years are common. And if I hadn't gotten in, I definitely would have just continued working throughout my gap years and just kept learning more and making myself a better applicant. And then on top of that, I found the crisis text line, which allowed me to really do that on my own time. The big majority of those were online as well, and with COVID, that's another thing. I had to be creative and find like online opportunities for a lot of these to even get hours, and I didn't know if they would be accepted at the time. And I don't know how schools honestly viewed my virtual hours to this day, so I don't want to say too much about all of my virtual experience just because I don't know how it'll be valued. And my research and leadership opportunities also started my junior year. So I'm saying, like, I really packed on my junior year. Like, I wanted this so bad, and I honestly gave it my all. And then everything else was extracurricular, so that's that. Sounds overwhelming, which it was, but a lot of it I was able to do online just because we weren't allowed to be on campus at the time. But CASPA definitely gave me an opportunity to explain myself in terms of my lower stats and my ability to gain all of those. So I really explained that. I would honestly recommend you give all your personal statement. That is your opportunity to differentiate yourself from stats and everyone's stats, because at the end of the day, someone's always gonna have less, more, the same. So that's where you kind of have your chance to shine. So for my timeline, I'll post a picture here. I think I interviewed in September. I don't know, it's gonna be on the picture. But I initially applied to 2 out of state, and then I took back 1. And then I applied to 6 in Texas, I think. And I ended up getting 4 interview invites. I was grateful that one of my top choices was my first interview in the process, and then my first acceptance as well. So after that, I did not attend any more interviews and I declined the rest. But interviewing was so nerve-wracking for me, and I had to prepare so much for those. I think the timing just really worked out for me in terms of applications and when the interview process was. But after that, it was such a big weight lifted off my shoulders. Like, it was very validating in terms of everything that I've been working for. So just know that your moment will come. Everything you're working so hard for will pay off, and you will be where you need to be. So I got my first acceptance the first or second month of my first senior semester, and I was 21 at the time. Is that worded weird? I don't know. That's a whole nother thing on its own. So I'm really glad that I got in, and it's to a school that I am really, really excited to attend. And I know it's gonna be an incredibly rigorous process, but I know it'll be worth it in the end. And hopefully I'll have time here and there just to make a video to update y'all. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. This video was probably all over the place. I still have a long way to go and a more difficult journey ahead, probably way harder than my pre-PA journey. So yeah, bye guys.